Okay guys, once again we are back with another fun-filled, action-packed, non-flipped Algebra 2 classroom video. And today we're just doing more completing the square, okay? So technically our notes start right here where we're completing the square when our first coefficient isn't 1. But we actually had this example on our notes yesterday too. So this is really nothing new. But we're just going to do a couple of examples just to get the hang of it, just to make sure we're well practiced. So look at this example. It says solve 2x squared minus 8x minus 24. So what's wrong with this? Not the 0. The 2x squared. Remember, we always work with it when it's x squared, right? So we don't want that 2 in front of the x squared, so what can we do? Divide what by 2? Everything. That's right. Divide everything by 2. And so if I divide everything by 2, what's my new equation? That's right. So now once we've done that, now it's just a normal solve with this completing the square kind of problem. So what would I do then? Add the 12, right, because we want that empty space there for completing the square. If I add 12 to both sides, it's going to leave me with x squared minus 4x, and then we want to leave that space there, equals 12, that's right. Okay, so now what do we want to do from this step? So what goes on my next line then? What should I write? Parentheses?
X minus 2.
Right?
Squared.
Squared, that's right. So this minus 2 came from dividing the negative 4 by 2, right? And then what number do I need to put in the blank then?
4.
Plus 4, right? Because the 2 squared, right, is plus 4. So can I just leave it like that?
No.
Why?
You gotta add 4 to the other side.
That's right, you gotta add 4 to the other side as well to keep it even. Okay, so that means this x minus 2 squared equals 16. That's right, because 12 plus 4 is 16. So now we're at the point where we have x minus 2 squared equals 16. I gotta solve for x, so what should I do? Square root both sides, very good. X minus 2 equals positive and negative 4. There you go. What do I need to do from here? Add 2, that's right. And so I get, give me the whole line, right? Because you can't be just writing numbers. X equals. And then what were you saying, Jaime? That's right. You actually have to work it out because there's whole numbers right here. So one of your equations, like you said, would be x equals 2 plus 4. And the other equation would be x equals, what is it? 2 minus 4. Good. Okay, so what's 2 plus 4?
6.
So x equals 6 is one of my answers. What is 2 minus 4?
-2.
So that's my other answer. X equals negative 2. Very good. Yes, sir. All right. Next one. Pretty much. The only difference is that at the beginning, you know, they're putting that number in front of the x squared, right? So, but otherwise, this part so far is pretty much just what we did yesterday. We're just doing some examples so you can see what kind of things you might encounter, you know. So in this next example right here, we got 3x squared minus 12x plus 6 equals 0. What should we do to this one? Divide everything by 3, because we see the 3 in front of the x squared. We don't want that. If I divide everything by 3, what's my new equation?
X squared minus 4x plus 2 equals 0.
That's right. So now we're ready to just solve by completing the square. So what should I do here?
Subtract 2.
And that leaves me with what?
X squared minus 4x equals 0. Oh, plus 2. No, minus 2.
Equals negative 2, right? Okay, I got that blank right there. So now what should I do?
X parentheses and then x minus 2 squared and then put 4 in a blank space.
Plus 4?
Yeah.
Just a blank space?
No, I do this.
And on the other side.
And the other side, that's right. So we divide the negative 4 by 2 to get the negative 2. Then we got to square that negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. That lets me know what goes in the blank. So x minus 2 squared equals what then?
2.
2. Because negative 2 plus 4 is positive 2. Okay, so now I'm at that point where I got x minus 2 squared equals 2. And what do I need to do?
Square root.
Square root both sides, that's right. And what does that leave me with?
X minus 2 equals.
plus or minus square root of 2.
Very good. We can't simplify square root of 2 anymore, so then we just leave it like that and put the plus and minus. Yes. The head nod of approval, yes. Okay. So x minus 2 equals plus or minus square root of 2.
Plus
Add
2.
two.
Add 2, that's right. And so my final answer should be?
X equals 2 plus or minus square root of 2.
And that's it. Nice.
Last one was harder.
Okay. Alrighty, so we got one more example like this. Look at this one right here. 3x squared plus 27 equals negative 18x plus 18. What do you think we should do here first? Divide everything by 3. That will make the numbers smaller and then we can move them around easier. Yes, sir. So we divide everything by 3. What's left in my equation then? What's my new equation?
So it'll be
X
X
squared plus
squared
7.
plus.
Wait, no, 9.
X squared plus 9 equals negative 6x plus 6.
Wow. Smart guy. Okay, x squared plus 9 equals negative 6x plus 6. That's right. Okay, but now what do we want to do?
Then you add 6x.
Add 6x to both sides because we want the x squared and the x term to be on the same side of the equal sign. What else?
And then add 6. I mean, subtract 6.
Subtract the 9. That's right. We want the numbers on the other side then.
Oh.
So what is my new equation then?
So it'll be x squared plus 6x. No, x squared plus 6x
That's what he's saying. Why'd you say no?
equals 3. Negative 3.
Negative 3. That's right. So now we got x squared plus 6x. Bless you. Leave the blank equals negative 3.
It's 9.
Well, what do we want to do?
Parentheses x plus 3 squared and then 9 and plus 9 in one space and on the other side.
That's right. So once again, we divide the 6 by 2. That gives me the 3. Then we got to square that 3, and that tells me what goes in the blank plus 9 on each side. So that means x plus 3 squared equals
Negative 6.
Positive 6.
positive 6. Negative 3 plus 9. Okay, so now we are at the point where we have x plus 3 squared equals 6. What do we do? Square root. Which gives me
X plus 3 equals square root of 6.
Plus or minus.
plus or minus square root of 6. Plus or minus the square root of 6 because you can't simplify the square root of 6 any more than that. Okay, so now what do we need to do from here?
Subtract 3.
Subtract the 3. So my final answer is?
X equals 3 plus or minus square root of 6.
Did you say x equals 3?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. Plus or minus the square root of 6. And there it is. Very good. Okay, so now the next part of the notes is we're going to use completing the square to change from standard form into vertex form. Notice that equation right there, y equals x squared plus 4x plus 1 is in standard form because standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Remember, if you recall, vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, where h comma k is your vertex. But look at that vertex form. Doesn't that kind of look like where we complete the square? Because look at the x minus h squared, right? That kind of looks like how we've been making perfect squares in parentheses, doesn't it? And so this is how we can use completing the square to change from standard form to vertex form. It's actually very quick. So what you're going to do is rewrite this first equation. So we're going to write y equals x squared plus 4x. But remember, when we complete the square, what always comes after the x term? The what? The space, right, that empty space. So let's put the empty space there, and we'll just slide the plus 1 to the very end. Okay, so now our next line is going to be y equals, and we're going to complete the square. So I'm just going to draw this little lines right here. You don't have to draw this right now, but I'm just showing you. We're completing the square for this part, and that's excluding that 1. Okay, that doesn't count the 1. We're just leaving the 1 on the outside for now. So let's just complete the square. What should my perfect square be?
X plus 2 square.
Right. So we divided this 4 by 2 to get 2. And then how do I know what goes in this blank?
Plus 4
Right, we square this 2, that's plus 4.
to the other side.
What do you mean to the other side?
That's one.
You would have to write, you would put the plus 4 on the y side. That's right. Okay, so there's 2 ways you can think about this, okay? Both of them are going to give you the same answer, but you can just do what you've been doing and add the 4 to the y, right? Or if you add the 4 into the equation randomly like that, you've now changed what the equation's saying, right? Because you're adding 4 out of nowhere, right? So what could you add to the very end to cancel out that positive 4 you just put in there? Negative 4, right? So we can just put it right here. And that's going to be the same thing as if you put plus 4 on the other side, right? Because you would just subtract 4 back over to get y by itself in the end. So regardless, it's the same thing. So we're going to put a minus 4 here. So now look, this x squared plus 4x plus 4, this part has condensed into x plus 2 squared, right? But what have we not accounted for at the very end? All of this. So we got to bring all of that down. So what is 1 minus 4? So right here it's going to be negative 3. And so now look, this is in vertex form, isn't it? Y equals, there's an a right here, it's the 1, times x plus 2 squared minus 3. So now using this vertex form equation, we should be able to find many of the things we're looking for here. So what is the vertex by looking at this equation? Negative 2, negative 3, that's right. Remember, the one on the inside of the parentheses is always opposite. So the vertex is negative 2, negative 3. If the vertex is negative 2, negative 3, what's the axis of symmetry? X equals negative 2. And where did you get the negative 2 from? From the vertex. It is the x value of the vertex. Okay, so now looking at this equation, does the graph open up or down? Why do you say down?
No, it's up.
It's up.
The y is going down. Like the y is negative. So the vertex will be.
All right, so Trey said it. It's because A is positive. A is a positive 1, right? There's no negative sign over here. So that means it's opening up. If A, which is right here, in front of the parentheses, is negative, then it'll be opening down. So it opens up. All right, now does anybody remember how you find the y-intercept? So a lot of people will mess up on this part. What's the y-intercept? Let's see who can tell me what it is. What? It's not a formula. So, all right, so that is a good point. Holly says, is it negative 3? Because she sees the negative 3 on the outside right here, right? That is a common mistake. A lot of people did do that. No. So remember, to find the y-intercept, okay, so this right here, this is the exact same thing as your original equation. Look at your original equation up here. Y equals x squared plus 4x plus 1. What's the y-intercept if you look at this equation? 1, right? It's 1. So how can you tell me it's negative 3 when you look at this? Doesn't make sense, right? You can't have two different y-intercepts if it's the exact same graph. And so what you're actually doing, guys, in any situation to find the y-intercept, you replace all the x's with zeros. So you know the shortcut of just looking at the very last number, right? And you tell me that's the y-intercept, right? But why that's possible is because you replace the x's with zeros. But if I replace these x's with zeros, doesn't that just cancel out these first two terms? That just leaves the last number, right?
Yeah.
That's why you can always just take that last number. But watch, even if I use the same idea in vertex form, then I replace the x with a 0. So watch, y equals 0 plus 2 squared minus 3. I'm going to solve this out. Let's see what we get. What's 0 plus 2? 2 squared. Okay, so now we're at 2 squared minus 3. What is 2 squared?
4.
So we got 4 minus 3. And what's 4 minus 3? 1. So you can see, even when we use this, this is the way you find it. You replace the x with 0. In the vertex form, you can get that y is 1. But right, you can always just look at the original and know that it's at 1. But how do you write the y-intercept? 0, comma 1. It's a point. It's the point that your graph is touching the y-axis. Okay, so you can't write like y equals something. That's a whole line, right? It's an exact point. That's the point. 0, 1. All right, good. So let's do one last example here then. We're going to do the same thing. And guys, I want you to follow the pattern that we did in the first example and tell me what I should be writing to change this standard form into vertex form. Right? Because that's the whole point of your notes, right? You want to be able to look at an example and copy that pattern even when you have different numbers. So what should I write? What should I write, guys? Rewrite the equation, so tell me exactly what to write. Y equals x squared, and then? Plus 8x, and then? A blank, right. We gotta leave the space, because we're trying to complete the square, and then? Plus 18, right. So we just slide that plus 18 to the very end. We put a blank in there so we can complete the square. What's gonna go on my next line, then? Y equals? Parentheses x plus 4, because we're completing the square there, right? So that we divide the 8 by 2. That gives me a 4, and then you said squared, right? So now, this is where I fill in the blank, right? So what goes in the blank? Right, positive 16, because we just square the 4. And so if I put plus 16 there, what else do I need to put? Negative 16, because we don't want to change the value of the equation. So we put a minus 16 at the end. So I need to bring down what? Plus 2, right. Where did you get the plus 2 from? Right there, that's right. Because the first part, the x squared plus 8x plus 16, that becomes the perfect square, x plus 4 squared. And then we got to bring down the 18 minus 16. So here's our vertex form. Then y equals x plus 4 squared plus 2. So what is the vertex? Right, negative 4, positive 2. What's the axis of symmetry then? X equals negative 4. Does it open up or down? Up, how did you know that? The a is not negative. It's a positive 1, right. And what is the y-intercept? You can look at the original equation for this. 0, 18. That's right, and there it is, guys. And that's going to end this section of notes. So I'll see you in the next one. Peace!